So I just want to thank Leonard for making this much tougher for me to actually close out the day. But I am honored to kind of be in this Papelbon position of being the closer here today. I hope we end on a fun note here. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I think there were some questions about how did you break into the business and where'd you get your start. So I figured I'd give you a little bit of background on kind of where I got my start. I actually talk about, not really knowing where you wanted to go when you were in college. I actually graduated from Rutgers University with an athletic training degree. And I had really no idea that I wanted to go into marketing, but I had worked with the athletic marketing department at Rutgers, and I also worked with the women's basketball team there. And if you guys are familiar, when I was back in college, Coach Stringer really had the Rutgers women's basketball team right at the top. They were always top four probably in the country and had made the Final Four probably for 2 or 3 years in a row. I didn't really want to go to 4 or 5 more years of grad school to kind of finish out an athletic training degree. So I graduated, didn't change my major, and through a couple common acquaintances, I met Jeff Long. And Jeff, if anybody knows him here, he's a St. Joe's grad. Yeah, Tim Curran back there knows Jeff really well. So I met Jeff, and I actually started as an intern myself with the Atlantic 10 Conference, St. Joe's being part of the Atlantic 10 in athletics. And I was doing some revenue generation. I was also doing some sponsor service. For those of you that are in school here, a few years ago, I think we ended the Atlantic 10 shootout, but that was basically a co-ed men's and women's division, really rec basketball tournament. And Jeff and I kind of came up with that concept ourselves, and that was just some of the things that we did at the Atlantic 10. So after the Atlantic 10, I had the privilege of meeting some folks at the Philadelphia Eagles, and as Leonard mentioned, and actually Katie Rose and I were both at the Eagles at the same time as Leonard. That was in like 04 and 05, and if you can imagine, as most things in life, timing is everything. And I had an opportunity to join the Philadelphia Eagles in their corporate service department, also dealing in sponsorships. That's obviously where I met Katie Rose and Leonard, and Dave Rowan at the time as well. And I'll tell you a little story because everybody loves stories, and I don't even think Leonard knows this one. But, in 04, again, Leonard had mentioned the number 81, not Jason Avant, but Terrell Owens. And that was the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. And I was part of the advanced team that went down to Jacksonville and was tasked with kind of getting everything ready until our entire staff came down and was ready to really rock and roll on all the execution around the Super Bowl. And I was on the team charter with the team. And I happened to be in the back of the plane, and Terrell was not in the back of the plane, but when the plane landed, he actually moved to the back of the plane. And later on, I found out as I was walking off the plane, I was the second to last guy to walk off, and Terrell happened to be the last. And if anybody knows anything about media rights, the NFL has the rights to all footage around Super Bowl weekend. So any local media outlet that wants footage of any of the teams that are traveling, they all have to get it from the NFL. And apparently, I had walked off the plane, and behind me was Terrell Owens, and he wanted to be the last guy on the plane. It was that guy that, arguably, he was probably bigger than Donovan McNabb or Brian Westbrook at the time. He was the guy who always wanted the attention. And I think, you'll know from speaking with or listening to Leonard speak and some of the other folks here, it's those types of personalities that sometimes just don't mesh. And sometimes companies need those types of guys to be very aggressive, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But just a little story for you around my trip, at least with the Eagles down at the Super Bowl. I spent 2 short seasons, probably a little too short. I would have loved to spend a little more time there, but I got a great opportunity with GMR Marketing. GMR, again, is a great sports marketing agency. We're actually headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, I was working on the Miller Brewing account. I was actually based here in Philadelphia. I then moved to Milwaukee for about 2 years. It's also working on at the time, Miller Coors, when Coors Brewing Company and Miller Brewing Company actually merged. And as we were building the business for GMR around Comcast, I had the opportunity to basically move back home, and they always say you can always come home. So I jumped on the opportunity to come back. I've been with GMR, working on the Comcast account now for about 4 years in different capacities. And so that's kind of how I got my start, and that's just a little tidbit of information for you guys. I realize we probably have a pretty diverse audience left here, but just a little bit of background on Comcast. So Comcast is a $60 billion company, the biggest media, technology, news, and entertainment company in the world. And they primarily have 2 businesses, Comcast Cable and NBC Universal. So Comcast Cable provides services primarily video, internet, and phone largest provider in the U.S., and they primarily do that under the brand called Xfinity. For those of you from here in the Philadelphia area, I'm sure you're very familiar. NBC Universal, I'm not as versed in this, so I'll just read it here, but NBC Universal operates 30 news and entertainment cable networks, NBC, Telemundo. They have TV production stations and groups, and then Universal Pictures, Universal Theme Parks and Resorts. And a little bit about GMR marketing. Again, I touched on it a little bit. GMR is a full-service engagement marketing agency. Again, we're headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We've got 600 plus employees, and we have offices in over 10 countries. As it relates to Comcast specifically, we've been working with Comcast since 2008. We were tasked really with coming up with their overall sports marketing strategy. And we now have 5 retainers with Comcast. We cover their university marketing, so basically selling cable service to college students like yourselves, sports strategy, sports creative, business services, and then regional activation of all their sports sponsorships. So again, a lot of different facets that GMR covers for Comcast. And as you can imagine, when we talk about sports strategy for Comcast, as big of a company as it is, there's so many touch points. We have to talk about products and services. We have to talk about sports sponsorships and their entire portfolio. So GMR manages that for them. We also have to talk about, we have the activation of the Xfinity Couch. How many people have seen the Xfinity Couch commercials? Best seat in the house, exactly. So all of the ideation behind that campaign is kind of powered through GMR and other agencies working on sports for Comcast. What we'll touch on today is really how to capture the power of social media. You've heard a couple other speakers talk about that earlier. And this is always a nice poll question. So Facebook or Twitter, by a show of hands, how many people prefer Facebook for their information or social networking? So a few, I'd probably say 10 to 15. And how many people prefer Twitter? And I think you'll find that that's actually pretty common when you talk to groups of people. Twitter is 140 characters. It's quick. You get your information, relatively easy, and it's very easy to search on different topics. So let's jump in here to kind of social media for Comcast. One of the things that we wanted to do back in 2010 when we were working on their recommended sports strategy, we wanted social media to be an integral part of that strategy, but as we were trying to figure out how to speak to consumers, we wanted to make sure that the efforts that we were putting forth really supported the overall sports marketing strategy and that positioning. And so what we did to come up with that positioning was we did research. And essentially what that research told us, or what we wanted to do with that research, is debunk the myth that you needed DirecTV if you wanted to have all the most sports content and programming. And what we found is through our research that actually, as an Xfinity customer, you get more live sports programming than any other provider. So as we kind of put that positioning into place, we thought about how social media could be a fit, and we came up with some strategy points, I think, that we focus all of our social media tactics around. We wanted to speak directly and authentically to sports enthusiasts about the products and services. And also, we know that Xfinity actually delivers this multi-platform experience. So that is anytime, anywhere, on any device, you can actually get your sports content as an Xfinity subscriber. As we mentioned, we wanted to extend the consistency of the current marketing campaigns. And then we wanted to create dialogue. And the other thing here is there was a competitive void. So Verizon, under the brand of Fios, they really didn't have a presence in social media. AT&T Uverse in their markets, they really didn't have a big presence on social media. So we really found that this was a unique opportunity for us to really own the space. So given the passion of sports, again, we wanted a way to kind of positively communicate with consumers and really capitalize on the chatter that was already happening. This is a word cloud from 2010. That's why you don't see the word Xfinity in here. But fans and sports enthusiasts, they were already talking about Comcast in a number of different ways, and we wanted to harness that conversation. So how are we going to do that? Well, we talked about the approach here. And the approach is we wanted to develop a voice. And the voice couldn't be Mr. Comcast in khakis and a polo shirt. It had to be somebody that was authentic, that could help us create that dialogue. And we wanted to make sure that that person was also a credible source. And we really came up with the ultimate sports social media job concept because we wanted to find an authentic sports fan that could actually be the voice behind the brand. So, how does a company like Comcast actually speak to its customers? Some of who they probably don't think Comcast, or they probably don't have a very good perception of Comcast just from customer service issues. So again, we came up with the concept of the contest, and the second part here is we wanted to use the power of our network partners. So Comcast has network partners like NFL Network, MLB Network, NHL Network. We also have a number of different team partnerships, but they also own a number of regional sports networks, and they have a lot of that, a lot of those relationships that can really help with pushing social media and extending that reach. So as we look at providing that insider perspective that really gives fans a reason to follow us, and here's an example of like one of our tweets. When we talk about our communication strategy, there's this triangulation essentially, which we have on each point of the triangle. We have access, content, and technology. And probably 90 to 95% of everything that we push through our Twitter handle somehow falls within that triangulation. This is a great example of what we're talking about here. So again, kind of playing back onto that Xfinity Couch commercial and the positioning of best seat in the house. Austin at the time, who was our Xfinity Sports guy, he was front row at the EA Sports Skills Challenge. I think this was in Chicago at some point. And through his Watch ESPN app that he has access to as an Xfinity customer, he was able to watch Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So as you look about, as you kind of think and talk about the content that you might want to share through a branded or a brand-focused Twitter handle, these are the kinds of things that kind of we took into account when we talk about how much content we want to talk about. How much content we want that's focused around technology, that's focused around the access that this person will get, and then that's focused around the content that people are looking for. I will actually jump to a quick video, and this is going to be a video of last year's contest recap to give you an idea of really what the contest was all about.
Xfinity is already your home for the most live sports, online and on television. But we wanted to stay on top of the game in social media too. We needed a unique and authentic voice to represent our brand, and we figured who better to connect with fans than fans themselves. So we launched a contest on our Xfinity Facebook page. Fans would compete for the ultimate sports social media job as the voice of Xfinity Sports. The competition helped expand Xfinity's reach and fan base, generating 210 million impressions and 35,000 new Facebook fans. Here's how it worked. To enter, contestants submitted videos explaining why they have what it takes. Fans voted on Facebook for their favorite positions, over 16,000 times in fact. Xfinity got promotional support from 15 team and network partners, NBA star Stephen Curry, SB Nation, and more. They drove awareness and engagement by telling their online audiences about the program via Facebook, Twitter, and more. As a result, the competition was mentioned over 11,000 times in social media, and it made a good impression. After the votes had been tallied, we sent our 5 finalists sporting events to show their stuff, including MLB spring training, the NASCAR race, Miami Heat game, Boston Cruz game, and the PGA tournament. Then it was up to a panel of celebrity judges to select the winner of the ultimate sports social media job.
Hi, my name is Austin Schindel, and I've been selected as the Xfinity Sports Guy. I'm very excited to get started, as I'll be traveling around the country to the biggest, most important sporting events. I'll provide behind-the-scenes access to marquee events and keep fans up to speed on sports conversations trending in social media. Make sure to follow me at Xfinity Sports.
Austin went straight to work. His job as the voice of Xfinity was to help elevate our brand, start a dialogue with fans, and educate them on Xfinity's products, programming, and partnerships. To do that, he needed to give fans insider access to sports content they couldn't get anywhere else. So, we sent him behind the scenes to report live at the nation's biggest sporting events, including the NFL Draft, MLB Opening Day, Pacquiao Bradley, the 2012 MLB All-Star Game, several NFL games, HBO's Hard Knocks, Showtime's The Franchise, and much more. Austin also conducted exclusive insider interviews with big names in sports.
No doubt. I mean, as far as our brand goes and as far as the sport of mixed martial arts, we have insanely rabid fans.
Austin has established himself as a credible voice. And Xfinity, well, we've built a social media platform that will pay dividends for years to come. sports fans even closer to the action. Xfinity Sports Social Media. One more way that Xfinity is giving fans the best seat in the house of most live sports.
All right, so that gives you an idea of what last year's contest looked like. And as we kind of compare, sorry about that, as we compare 2012 to 2013, one of the things that we were really proud about was this program was actually named one of Sports Business Journal's best of the year in social. And some of the other programs that were named in that same kind of category were the NBA Social Media Award Show, as well as the MLB All-Star Game in Kansas City, where they had live players kind of tweeting from the All-Star Game. So some pretty good company that we had there. In 2013, we had actually 3 times the number of applicants from the previous year just interested in the job. Again, it's positioned as the ultimate sports social media job. And when you think about the type of access that we give this person, it really becomes something that's pretty sought out from especially maybe people like you who are just coming out of college and looking to break into some area of marketing. In this case, is social media. But again, with a company like Comcast, ends up being pretty desirable. So we were really happy with the number of applicants that we got from year to year. It's actually funny, I was at the Eagles Sponsor Summit last week, and Darren Ravel was one of the speakers. And one of the things that he was talking about was actually, how do brands take advantage of the game day? And social media was one of the big opportunities. And someone had asked, how do we find that credible voice? And his answer was essentially, you could hire a kid right out of college who's very active in journalism. You could hire a journalist themselves, or you could actually hold a contest. And Darren was very familiar with kind of our program here, and we'd like to think that that comment or that kind of direction from him kind of stemmed from this. Another change that we made from last year to this year was in wild card voting. So very similar to the MLB All-Star Game, you guys might be familiar. The last 2 spots of the All-Star on the All-Star roster are actually chosen by the fans through wildcard voting. And we kind of wanted that same concept. Again, what we were looking for was the engagement online, and we wanted people to be interested, and we wanted to build that awareness. So what we did was, out of all the applicants, a panel of Comcast judges actually picked the top 8, and then we picked the next best 10. And those 10 were actually posted on Facebook, and the general public actually voted for the final 2 spots in the top 10. So that kind of gave this viral nature to this wild card voting. The candidates in that next 10, they all had to kind of vie for public vote. So that added a very unique aspect to the contest in 2013. We actually added another layer of the contest this year. So last year, I think we lucked out with Austin. Austin was pretty good on camera. He was pretty good behind the keyboard. As you know, on Twitter, it's all about how you position every one of your statements. So we added another layer this year just to make sure we got the right candidate. It was a semifinal round, which I'll get to in a little bit, featuring the top 10 applicants, those top 8, and then the 2 wild card positions. And then slightly different from last year, as you saw in the video, we had sent the top 5 to various events all on the same weekend. So that was NASCAR, it was MLB, hockey. This year, we actually sent all 5 to an opening weekend game in the MLB. We really wanted to level the playing field and kind of give everybody the same type of experience. The other thing, and maybe the most important for those that were applying for the job, was we added in this housing stipend. So for anybody who was willing to move to Philadelphia and kind of be in Comcast's backyard and be available to work with us day to day in person, we're basically paying their entire salary as well as a housing stipend each month, a $2,000 housing stipend to cover their living arrangements in Philadelphia. And luckily for us, the winner of the contest is looking forward to moving here to Philadelphia. I was hoping to have him here today, but he's not moving until next week. So we're also providing full service as far as Xfinity products within the house, and then decking out their entire man cave with equipment, TVs, laptop, iPhone, everything. And all that on top of a salary, and then getting to, kind of go out to the best sporting events in the country. I think it's all a pretty good gig. So here's the added layer that I want to get into a little bit of detail on that we added here, semifinals at Xfinity Live. So as you can imagine, Xfinity Live is a great partner of ours, as a CSN Philly, and we put 5 challenges together to give us an idea of evaluating each of the 10 contestants. We had in-game tweets and a writing sample. So we gave every contestant the same 4 pieces of game footage. from college football to hockey to Major League Baseball. And their challenge was to basically give us your 5 best tweets based on this game footage to essentially simulate what happens when they're sitting at home and they're watching a game and we want them to push content. So that was the first challenge. The second challenge was an interview of a Philadelphia Phillies legend. They knew that they were going to interview either Von Hayes or Bob Boone. We actually contracted with them through MLBPA, and we were able to have them here at the semifinals event. Third challenge, they were actually interviewed themselves by Lisa Hillary from CSN Philly. Again, CSN Philly is a great partner. We're very supportive in the promotion of the contest. The fourth is just their overall event experience. So we monitored their tweets from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. that entire day, and then we gave them each a score. And the last was a panel interview. So the same panel of Comcast judges that kind of narrowed down the top 8, they were also in person here at Xfinity Live to help conduct a panel interview. Again, it was 5 to 6 questions, all the same questions from each of the candidates. So really like a job interview. Again, we narrowed the top 10 to a top 5, and then those top 5, as I mentioned, went to a game during MLB opening weekend this past April. Each contestant actually received a player or alumni interview, a broadcaster interview, a pregame or on-field dugout access, so they watched batting practice from the dugout. And then they got premium seating versus a media credential. And this was important because a media credential probably got them access to a press box, right? And that's not really the insight that we are trying to give our followers. We want to give them insight as if that person was actually sitting in the stands with us. So that premium seating was usually, again, under the premise of best seat in the house, usually a front row seat or a second row seat somewhere near the dugout. And eventually we named our winner. So Vance McCullough, he's our new Xfinity sports guy. He's about a month on the job. He's from Tupelo, Mississippi, and that's not made up. For any of you that know Comcast, Comcast got their start by the first purchase of a cable system in Tupelo, Mississippi. So that's just a strange coincidence. He's from Mississippi State University. He actually was a promotions coordinator for the NBC affiliate in Tupelo. Again, just another odd coincidence. He's had experience in media relations for the Big 12 Conference Office and also football ops at the Atlanta Falcons. So he's got a pretty diverse background. We're pretty happy to have him on board. And the other unique thing here is he wasn't one of the top 8 that were chosen by the panel of Comcast judges. He actually was one of the 2 wildcard spots. So he was one of the guys that was vying for public vote. He actually did receive the most votes out of public voting and earned that wildcard spot. So I'm hoping that this link will work. What I'd like to do is show you a video of Vance's panel interview during semifinals. And I think as you hear him talk, you'll have a better idea of why we kind of chose him. And let me just log in here real quick.
I just want to say thanks for this opportunity and this experience because I'm going to try not to, but the trials of the wild card paved such a road that I've never been down before that I've gotten phone calls from people that I hadn't talked to in years, and it's just, I mean, it's been moving, and it's been an awesome experience. My most recent social media idea, I guess, and riding to Grange, Georgia from Atlanta one morning, I was listening to Power Alley on MLBX and the radio. I came up with this idea that from Mississippi you don't have professional teams, but you follow everything. I follow baseball closely, it's my favorite sport, and I wanted to pick a favorite team. So what I did was called Power Alley with Mike Farron and Jim Duquette. Told them who I was, 26 years old, now 27. Said I'm Vance McCullough from Mississippi, never had a favorite team but love the sport. I just want y'all to sell me on a team, sell me on a franchise. I'm a newlywed, I'm not scared of commitment. Let's do this. I want to do it for, I want to be a fan. And they're like, wow, that's a great idea. 2 hours later, they're still taking calls on this. And I'm just like, this is insane. So I tweet them, and I was like, let's have fun with it. At Mike Farron, at Jim Duquette, hashtag find Vance a team. Let's do this. And they retweeted, and I mean, the next day, I don't know, I counted 160 of their listeners and different people tweeted in talking about find Vance a team. Join this team. I like this team, I like that team. And I feel like I can come up with an idea to create it, to take it to social media, build upon it, and then, maximize that. But that's what social media can do. And that's the exciting thing about it.
So again, I think that hopefully gives you an idea of one of the reasons why we picked Vance as kind of our next voice of Xfinity Sports. Again, he's about 1 month on the job, and I'm not even kidding when I tell you within the first 10 days, these are the 3 events that he actually traveled to. So his second day on the job, he was in New York City at the 2013 NFL Draft. He was behind the scenes. He had a press pass. He was one of the first guys to actually interview 2 of the draft picks out of the top 5. Again, great partnerships with people like NFL Network who got us that access. Literally that same probably 4-day window, he was also in New York, UFC 159, Silva versus Sonnen. That was actually happening at Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. So Vance and I, we were actually doing kind of a seesaw between NFL draft coverage and then UFC 159 coverage. You'll see the picture in the top right. UFC is another great partner that is fantastic to work with. They are far advanced in social media, and they actually got us an interview with Dana White. That was actually unique because it was, I want to say, probably no more than a week after the tragedy at the Boston Marathon. And Dana was actually traveling back to Boston that Sunday. And so we had asked Dana, what his plans were when he was going back to Boston and kind of what his thoughts are. Dana is from Boston. And those are the types of interviews, those are the types of insights that you're going to get with at Xfinity Sports. You're not going to get the typical media question, and you're not going to get anything that you can find in another media outlet. What we're really looking for is to give you guys as followers the unique access, give you that best seat in the house type of experience. And then the following week was Mayweather versus Guerrero. So Vance was on a plane from Atlanta over to Vegas. And again, another picture here, he had met Floyd Mayweather Sr. And, he asked Floyd, hey, what do you think about the fight on Saturday? And Floyd said, knockout, no doubt, knockout, 4th or 5th round. So I don't know if Vance actually put money on that in Vegas, but anybody who followed the fight, it actually went the distance, and Mayweather won through a decision. So that was his first kind of 10 days on the job. We're looking at a couple of unique opportunities upcoming for him on site. The U.S. Open at Marion is obviously about a month away, and then the 2013 NBA Draft is at the end of June. Again, our purpose from content is not really to talk about how cool it is that he is at an event. His access is really to give all of his followers a reason to continue to follow him and get those unique insider perspective and unique access points that he'll be able to give you when he's on site at events. His biggest challenge actually is what kind of content is he pushing when he's not on site at events. And so that's one thing that will always be a challenge for us in talking about products and services and getting people to understand why Comcast should be the provider of choice when you're thinking about cable, internet, phone, sports packages, things like that. So I believe that is all that I have for now. Thank you for everybody who stuck around, and I realize that I'm probably the guy that's in between you and maybe the unofficial start to summer if anyone's taking off tomorrow. But thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thanks, John.
Really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, well, it's been a long day, but a tremendous day in terms of the amount of content, the amount of information, the amount of knowledge. I want to thank every one of our presenters and panelists and moderators. I want to thank Faust for being our afternoon MC, Mike Missinelli, who's now doing his radio show, for being our morning MC, and everybody who attended today. I hope you had a good day, and we're going to do this again. Oh, yes, and I am supposed to ask you to please fill out your evaluations and leave them at your seats, and as soon as you do, you can go get some refreshments out in the foyer. And have a great day. The Hawk will never die.